Greetings. My name is Scott Weeman. I'm the founder and executive director of Catholic in Recovery and author of a book, The 12 Steps in the Sacraments, A Catholic Journey Through Recovery. I'm really grateful and honored to be a part of this Ave Explores series, taking a look at the intersection between our Catholic faith and issues surrounding mental health. One issue that I'd like to focus on today is that of addiction. I believe a vital part of this conversation around mental health and something that really keeps us oftentimes spiritually, emotionally, mentally challenged, separating us from God. And I know this personally as a recovering alcoholic and addict myself. So a few things I would like to focus on in today's video include, first, what are some of the challenges that are brought upon by addiction, including those on an individual and family level? What are some tips that we can look at in order to find freedom from those addictions, compulsions, and unhealthy attachments? And a few different resources that might be helpful along the way. And so personally, like I mentioned, I know the pain, the sorrow, and the darkness that is involved in addiction. And there's a variety of different types of addictions and compulsions that I'll refer to. That includes alcoholism, drug addiction, pornography and sex addiction, compulsive overeating, gambling, an addiction to technology, codependency or wanting to control people, places, and things. All sorts of different things that really separate us and keep us from knowing God personally, and oftentimes can be idols in our lives. You know, it's noted that about 50% of people that struggle with mental health concerns find themselves resorting to addiction or struggling with addiction later on in life, oftentimes as a means to self-medicate, find themselves relief from the really challenging symptoms that are involved in their mental health concerns. Moreover, about half people that suffer from an addiction also find themselves needing recovery from various mental health concerns, depression, anxiety, fear, grief, a lot of things that really, as we go along the process of addiction recovery, need some specific looking at. You know, I know this myself. When I first got into sobriety and got sober by the grace of God, I found my way I found new life, but I also needed to take a look at some other things that were involving my relationships, patterns of behavior, ways of thinking that needed to be challenged and needed some really help along the way. One thing, you know, by the grace of God, is I found freedom from a variety of addictions: alcoholism, drug addiction, pornography and sex addiction, some compulsive eating patterns. The sacramental relationship with Jesus Christ was very helpful. And so I found that the relationship or the overlap between the 12 steps of addiction recovery and the sacramental life of the church can bring vital change and hope and a really close relationship with God, allowing us Catholics to become better Catholics and giving us a better understanding and relationship with the sacramental life of the church. Now, as I mentioned, darkness is oftentimes always associated with addiction, and not just for those individuals themselves that find themselves suffering, but family members and close friends who have a great concern and care for us. And so if you are a family member or loved one, someone you know suffering with an addiction, it's okay. You're not alone, and you're suffering too. That's fair. A couple of things that we find within a family, especially when either a parent or a significant member of the household is challenged with addiction, is that oftentimes roles will change around the family in order to compensate for the missing family member, or they may be physically present but emotionally absent and unable to really carry the load that's asked of them. And so oftentimes we find children stepping up in situations where either a father or a mother or both struggle with a variety of different types of addictive behaviors. Or if a child falls into addiction themselves, oftentimes parents or other siblings, cousins, extended family members find themselves trying to really compensate, and their roles shift within a family system. You know, there are a variety of different ways that people do cope with the challenges of mistrust and, miscommunication within the family, and oftentimes those coping mechanisms can be difficult and lead to some other consequences themselves. I think that isolation is oftentimes a very key part in addiction. And that isolation takes place on an individual level and also on a family level. And so one of the ways in order to break free from the grip of addiction, or at least the impact that it has on a family member, is by not living life in isolation. You know, there can be this pull to want to hide and keep secrets for our family members and loved ones, but really all that is doing is entrenching and keeping that addiction alive and well. So one thing that I recommend for a family member who has concerns for their loved one who's suffering with an addiction is to not do for them, your loved one, what they can do for themselves. Now, of course, this is a really challenging thing to do, and setting up healthy boundaries is not easy, but it can pay great dividends, not just for you, but in a loving way for your loved one. I often think that, as we set boundaries for ourselves, this is not putting conditions on our love, but rather is providing an outlet for us to find whatever kind of emotional help and support that we need ourselves as family members, while our addicted loved one can find the help that they need, but without doing that work for them. Of course, finding others who are in a similar situation can bring about encouragement, resolve, shared experience, and hope, and also provide just a listening ear and a compassionate friend. And so if you find yourself either living with someone or caring for someone who's suffering with an addiction today, slow down, trust God, ask Him to help. Seek the sacraments, find others locally or around the country who are in a similar place. Read books, find resources. You can find a variety of different articles and hope at our website, CatholicInRecovery.com. And continue to plug into this series. Friends, you're in my prayers. This is a very challenging and important conversation to have, and I'm really great to have it with you, and I hope that we continue to look at this as a church. And so if I can be of any assistance, please reach out, let me know. You'll find a variety of ways to contact us at CatholicInRecovery.com. And God bless you abundantly today.